In the previous episode, a mysterious 99-story black tower appeared out of nowhere in the heart of Gangnam. Some people came out from the tower and explained about rewards in the tower if someone wins. Sejun, our main character, also wants to go into the tower, but has no money to buy a ticket. Somehow, he managed to enter the tower, but it was not like as explained, so he starts farming. Now forward. Sejun clutched his head and wailed. He might have been stranded on a floor that even the top hunters had not reached. Why is this happening to me? Sejun looked at the hole in the ceiling with a heavy heart, bathed in blue light. However, his purpose had changed. Previously, he had looked up hoping someone would pass by, but now he hoped that no one would. After seeing the dragon, Sejun realized that there were monsters in this place. Beep beep. Beep beep. The alarm went off. Sejun greeted the fourth day with sleepless eyes after standing guard all night. Fortunately, the blue moon turned back to its usual yellowish light around 4 a.m. 5 hours later. Sejun's head drooped as he stood guard. Then he fell into a deep sleep. It was understandable, as he had been keeping watch, staring at the ceiling since yesterday. Ugh! Water! As soon as he woke up, Sejun felt a burning thirst. He fumbled for the water bottle he had placed beside him. And then he drank the water in one shot. Phew! Now I feel alive! His thirst quenched, hunger set in. He went to the pond and quickly washed his face, as well as 5 sweet potatoes and cherry tomatoes. Sejun chewed on a sweet potato while looking at the hole in the ceiling. Even if I don't know where I am, if it's above the 41st floor, the chances of someone coming are almost 0%. That meant he had to survive on his own. Sejun looked at the field where he had planted crops. Should I water them? Thinking that he had to survive on his own made the crops seem more precious. He watered them. You guys have to be strong. Sweet potatoes grow huge. Tomatoes bear lots of fruit. Green onion. Just grow big and strong. He watered the plants and spoke kindly to them. He had heard on the news that playing music for plants could help them grow, so he thought a few kind words wouldn't hurt. After watering the plants, Sejun sat down and stared at the hole in the ceiling again. However, boredom quickly set in. Should I eat this? Sejun saw the green onion leaves he had pulled off when planting the roots on the first day. Ugh! It's spicy. As soon as he put the green onion leaves in his mouth and chewed, a spicy taste filled his mouth, accompanied by the strong scent of green onions. The taste had become more concentrated after drying in the sun for a couple of days. Sejun continued to chew without swallowing. There's sweetness in green onion too. As he kept chewing, the spiciness faded, and the hidden sweetness of the green onions gradually emerged. Great! He chewed on the green onion and managed to endure the drowsy afternoon hours. Sejun sighed and moved to his usual spot with flat rocks well lit by the sun and sat down. However, something felt off. He was in the shade. Huh! What's this? The scallion, which had grown to Sejun's height, was blocking the sun that should have always been shining. There was no significant difference when he looked at it while watering it yesterday. And there was no change before going to bed. The scallions had grown tremendously overnight. When did it grow like this? As Sejun approached and examined it closely, the white part where the scallion roots were had grown to the thickness of a wrist. Sejun grabbed and tore off one of the new scallion leaves. What? The scallion leaves appeared fragile as they fluttered in the wind, yet they were surprisingly tough. Sejun put an effort and tore off the leaf. What? Why is it like this all of a sudden? It seemed that the appearance of plants changed depending on the climate and habitat. How will it taste? He hoped that the taste would change as much as the appearance had. Sejun put the scallion leaf in his mouth and chewed. Crunch. The scallion leaf was cut off with a pleasant sound, easier than expected. The texture was good as well. As soon as he chewed the scallion, a spicy taste spread throughout his mouth. His body warmed up from the spiciness. His pores opened and sweat poured out like rain. Swallowing his saliva. Sijuan wiped the flowing sweat and continued to chew the scallion. However, the expected sweetness didn't come. I thought the sweetness would be stronger because the spiciness became stronger. It seemed that the taste had become entirely spicy. When he swallowed the scallion, the spiciness disappeared cleanly. Fortunately, it didn't upset his stomach. Today, he started his work a little late because of the scallions, but it didn't matter. The work was briefly watering the crops and staring blankly at the hole in the ceiling. Still, something had appeared to relieve his boredom. When he stared blankly at the ceiling for a while, the scallions had grown significantly in the meantime. Do scallions usually grow this fast? Is it because they were grown in the tower? There was nothing else to suspect. They were just scallions that he had bought from the market. If the seeds had truly been scallions that grew 10 centimeters per hour, they would have been called golden scallions. But there's no growth from these guys. Sijuan glanced at the spots where he had planted cherry tomatoes and sweet potatoes next to the scallions. If the soil was the reason for the scallions' miraculous growth, then other things would grow well too. However, there was no change in the ground. Is this soil only suitable for growing scallions? Despite feeling suffocated yesterday, he found the sky to be pleasant today. Come to think of it, he had been staring at the sky for days. I never really looked at the sky for days when I was working at the company. I'm living a good life. However, that feeling was short-lived. I feel like something's missing. If only I had coffee here. He really wanted an iced Americano with an extra shot. He missed his city life. As Sijuan looked at the sky, reminiscing about city life, beep. Beep. He received a notification that his smartphone battery had dropped below 20%. He had set the screen to low power mode and only looked at it when needed, but he couldn't completely prevent battery consumption. Let's charge it with this for now. Sijuan opened his laptop and pressed the power button. A smartphone that consumed less power than a laptop and informed him of the time to wake up and sleep was more useful. Blink. The laptop screen lit up, showing an Excel window with work he had been doing. It was an estimate to send to a client, which he hadn't finished at the company and had intended to complete at home. Click. Sijuan closed the Excel window without any hesitation. Of course, he didn't save anything. Although it was an estimate he had worked on for several days, he didn't feel any regret. Besides, it was already too late. Someone else will do it instead. He felt a little sorry for the person who would take over, but it wasn't a situation where he could do anything about it. Sijuan connected his smartphone and laptop and charged his phone. He also turned on low power mode for the laptop to reduce battery consumption. And while his smartphone was charging, he looked at the cherry tomato sprouts. No matter how many times he looked, it made him feel good. As he was watching the cherry tomato sprouts for a while, drip, 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 water dropped from above. What? Is it raining? Sijuan knew that wasn't the case, even as he spoke. Apart from a few floors, the tower always had clear weather. Could it be a monster? He got goosebumps imagining a monster looking down at him and drooling. Sejun hastily looked up. But, huh! In the hole in the ceiling, there was a small white rabbit drooling as it looked down through the hole. Is that a monster too? Sijuan was wondering if the rabbit he saw in front of him was a ferocious monster when suddenly, squeak! As the rabbit's eyes met Sijuan's, it let out a cute cry and jumped down from the hole. Boing! It's dangerous! Sijuan instinctively reached out his hand towards the falling rabbit, not knowing if it was a monster or not. However, the rabbit adjusted its falling direction using its long ears, avoiding Sijuan's hand, stepped on his shoulder with both feet, and safely landed on the ground. 66 It was quite embarrassing to have his hand outstretched in the air. At that moment, squeak! The rabbit cautiously approached him while walking on two legs and pointed to the scallion with its trembling finger. Seeing it walk on two legs, it was not just an ordinary rabbit. Can you eat this? Squeak! The rabbit answered, nodding its head vigorously. There was a desperate plea in its eyes for approval. Sijuan broke off a whole scallion leaf and gave it to the rabbit. Squeak! Crunch! Crunch! The rabbit started eating the scallion leaf Sejun handed over without hesitation. While the rabbit was eating the scallion, Sejun broke off more leaves. He decided to break them all. From then on, Sejun planned to cut the scallions once at 6 a.m. and once at 2 p.m. so the cherry tomato seedlings could get some sun. Crunch! Crunch! The rabbit was still eagerly eating the scallion. So far, it had eaten a length equivalent to 2 finger joints. At that moment, another rabbit's cry was heard. Ha! Sejun looked towards the sound, and there was another slender rabbit wearing an apron. And then, Nod? The rabbit that made eye contact with Sejun politely greeted him. What's going on here? Day 7 of being lost. Sejun woke up a little early, and a rabbit couple had joined the cave. The next day, Sejun quickly sensed a pink atmosphere flowing between the two. Are you two a couple? They both nodded at the same time. Damn! Being caught between a rabbit couple. Feeling Sejun's strange mood, the husband rabbit rubbed its face against Sejun's hand, trying desperately to win his approval to stay. It was a desperate gesture to protect their home. Working so hard to protect their family. Sejun's heart softened. He felt ashamed for still being stuck in the past. That's right. They were a couple, and these two are a married couple. Sejun didn't know the profound world of a married couple. All right. You can stay here. But it's not for free. He didn't expect anything in return. Upon Sejun's approval, the rabbit couple nodded vigorously and ran to a corner of the cave, digging a burrow to create their own dwelling. A burrow? Watching the rabbit dig the burrow, Sejun had a sudden idea. He wondered if they could dig a burrow to get out of here. Stupid me. I only thought about the hole above because it was there. At that moment he saw the light passing through the pet bottle, refracting and concentrating into a strong light. Seeing that, an idea came to mind. He remembered a scene from a TV show where survival experts used pet bottles filled with water to start a fire. Should I try to start a fire? It seemed like the well-dried leaves would burn well. All right. Sejun got up and collected the well-dried leaves. And then, he tore the leaves thinly to gather them well in the center, so the fire could catch easily. And Sejun began to focus the light on the dried green onion leaves using the pet bottle filled with water like a magnifying glass. When Sejun stayed still in the same position for more than 20 minutes, the rabbit couple approached him. They seemed curious about what the farm owner was doing. About 10 minutes passed, and the rabbits started dozing off, seemingly bored. At that moment smoke started to rise from the finely torn pile of green onion leaves. An ember was created. It's working! Sejun concentrated even more on shining the light from the pet bottle on the ember. The ember grew stronger, and the smoke became thicker. Sejun carefully blew air into the finely torn leaves containing the ember. After blowing for a while, the fire started and flames burst out. I did it! The rabbit couple looked at Sejun with admiring eyes. They didn't have any items that could start a fire among their belongings. The first thing Sejun did when the fire started was to roast green onions to eat. He just wanted to fill his stomach with something warm. The dried green onions had become too hard to eat, like firewood, so he roasted the ones he had picked today. As the surface of the green onion turned black from the roasting, Sejun lifted it by holding the end. And then he placed the blackened green onion on another leaf and peeled off the burnt skin while blowing on his fingers. He lifted the roasted green onion and put the peeled part in his mouth. So sweet! Sejun's eyes widened at the incredible taste. It was like sugar was running wild in his mouth. An intense sweetness exploded. Sejun quickly threw a few more green onions into the flames and began eating the roasted green onions hurriedly. Seeing Sejun's reaction, the husband rabbit bravely placed a green onion into the fire. And shortly after, the rabbit couple ate the peeled roasted leeks with emotional expressions. All three of them ate with enthusiasm, getting black smudges on their faces. Tomatoes, he started a new task. Making torches. He wove several leaves together to make a handle, and wrapped the end with finely torn dried leaves hundreds of times. Dried green onion leaves seemed to be suitable for torches as they maintained the fire for a long time. The green onion leaves burned for so long that there was no need to manage the fire separately. At first, it would have been tedious to continue, but now he found pleasure in using his will, body, and effort to create something essential to his life, and went to the pond to wash his face. The pond was brighter than yesterday. Sijuin, who had always been uncomfortable with the darkness when washing his face, installed a torch by the pond first. Nice! Sijuin looked at the burning torch and brought his face closer to the pond to wash his face. At that moment, splash! A fish suddenly jumped out of the pond and tried to bite Sijuin's face. Sijuin hurriedly leaned back. The fishy smell of water from the fish's body brushed past his nose. He barely dodged it. The fish that fell to the ground wriggled to return to the water. What? What is this? Sijuin, who was flustered, approached the wriggling fish and took a closer look. It had golden stripes on a black background on its body and sharp teeth. He could have had his nose cut off if he was just a little bit late. Sijuin pushed the fish to the opposite side of the pond so it couldn't escape. He then examined the pond. Oh! Inside the pond, several fish of the same species that had just attacked Sijuin were swimming. Why are they here? On the 11th day of being trapped in the tower, they finally had the chance to eat fish. This chapter ends here. Please tell us how much you like this story, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe.